Before we start this video of my 2018 section hike, I'd like to take a minute to emphasize what a great time I had on this trip. Every minute was fantastic fun for me. I want to explain that for two reasons. One is the fact this trip revealed a virtually complete recovery from the head-on car accident that injured me in 2014. Because of that accident, I could only walk slowly with a limp for 2 years. Eventually, the doctors told me only a hip replacement could get me back to normal, and that required another year of recovery before I could try any hard walking. And walking with a limp in my right leg caused a long-standing problem with my left foot, which this video talks about. All of that was behind me on this trip, and I could push myself as hard as I wanted. It was almost like the old days. How could I not feel fantastic? That wasn't the case with my 2017 section hike, when I never did more than 6 miles a day and my left foot bothered me all the time. That leads to reason 2. I was having such a good time on this trip, I forgot to hold the camera still. It's easy enough to do when I remember. This time I didn't remember. So I apologize in advance for any footage on the jittery side. For one clip, I put the audio over a couple of stills when the footage was really bad.
Well, I'm on the Appalachian Trail again. It's another section hike 2018. I didn't film much the first day because I had to walk 10 miles. I'm on a long section south of Daleville that is on National Park Service land, and for some reason, as a consequence of this, you cannot camp at unprepared sites. And this is a very long stretch that affects this. There's several shelters very close together, actually, around McAfee Knob, and once you head south of there, there's a long section, I think it's 14 miles, where there's no shelter and you cannot camp at an unprepared site. So the question is, do I feel like trying to take on 14 miles in one day? Even though I supposedly had, supposedly had a year to train. I did train for a year, but part of the problem was my foot was really messed up, as I may have indicated in an earlier video, and it gave me problems for months after my 2017 hike, and finally it got better. It's an unusual injury, and which no one should read anything into the injury, because I'm sure my experience won't be shared by anybody else on the planet. Basically, the deal is I fouled up my left foot by limping on my right leg. What ultimately straightened things out was getting a new pair of shoes. These are Brooks Cascades, I think. I have super feet insoles I put in there on top of the insoles that already came with the shoes, and I learned slowly over time that by a variety of stretching and massaging moves I could improve the foot. And in fact, I had a very brief flare-up on my first day, but I stopped for about 5 minutes and stretched the foot, and that put it back to normal. So when it comes to mileage, I'm just not the man I was 15 years ago or more. But, you know, I'm still out here trying to get done what I can get done. And there are easier places to be that I've already been. But, you know, I want to try something new. On to more pleasant subjects. We've got a little bit of fall color happening here in October. It's not a lot, but it's okay. The weather's pretty glorious at the moment. Always glad to be here. That's why I come back. Why else would I? We notice on the tree in the distance white blaze. And here's the footing on the trail. If you follow the right, you're going to go land down there. Yeah, looks like it's about 18 feet before you come to a stop. And if you fall downhill on the left, I don't know where the bottom is on that side. So let's not do any falling in places like this. Got it? Got it. If anybody has never seen a food storage or bear box on the Appalachian Trail, here we go. That's what we're looking at. It has instructions on the top that say it's for hiker food and it's not for trash. Same instructions are posted on a tree here. This is my first hike when I've seen one of these things, and I'm glad to see it. And I'm grateful to those who carry this thing out here and set it up, or maybe they assembled it, who knows. It works on a latch that the bear can't get to. This, if that shows up here, this shows a hand going up underneath to activate the latch, and I'll demonstrate. And we see quite a bit of space inside. It has two sides, of course. And I'm sure it would hold all kinds of food for whoever wants to camp at this place. And of course, one of the nicest things about it is you don't have to go looking for a tree to hang a bear bag. And I'm all for that. I move really slow or slower than normal anyway, over rocks like this, because if I don't, I'm liable to bash my toe against something, snag one of my trekking poles between two rocks, have my foot slide a little bit sideways right into the knife edge of some rock right next to my path. All of these things have been happening on this trip. So, you know, if I was really young and bouncy and fleet-footed, which I'm none of those things, you know, I just zip right over this stuff. But, you know, I don't. I slow down. And who knows, maybe everybody would benefit from slowing down in places like this. It surprises me how smooth this rock looks. It could be because people have been climbing on top of it for who knows how long. 100 years or more. Certainly the folks that lived around these parts stood a good chance of knowing this thing was here. If you come this way, that is the approach to McAfee's Knob, where everybody takes the pictures. There's the AT right there. There's a sign there, I don't know if you can see on the tree, it says Overlook. Another sign here that says we're 3.9 miles to the parking lot. There's the AT again. So you kind of have to be on your toes so you don't walk by it. It's a very popular spot, so you're likely to hear voices of the many day hikers and tourists up there if the weather ain't bad. There's another spot that's a little more obvious, another overlook that is north of here. I'll show you it next. That's the more obvious spot right next to the trail. Let's take a look. So how is my heavily modified, half butchered from the original condition Gatewood Cape doing on this trip? Pretty good. Right now it's 55 degrees. The first night out got down to about 35, cold enough to frost. And it hasn't been any problem. It's been doing its job. After that first night, I got up in the morning and turned on my cell phone, and it wouldn't turn on because the battery was too cold. It said it needed to be charged up. So I put it in my pocket and let it sit for 15 to 20 minutes to warm up, and then it fired back up like nothing had ever happened with the same charge it had originally. There are a lot of section hikers out here now. I've counted 14 so far, and a heck of a lot of day hikers. McAfee Knob is on this route. Daleville's on the other end. So you got a parking lot. You can park there, walk 3 miles to McAfee's Knob, walk on to Daleville from here. That's about 16, which makes it just a hair under 20 miles for the whole trip if you day hike, and I've met a number of people doing that. I have to say that I'm jealous of all those folks. I wish I lived here, and I wish I could day hike on this. I'm jealous of anybody who lives close enough to the AT to get there in just a short drive. But I've said that before. We all know there's a rock in Virginia south of the James River. It's a boulder, I don't know, 5 or 6 or 7 feet across, held up between 2 pieces of rock over the trail. It's called the Guillotine. Well, check this thing out. Check out this great big giant rock with a big opening under it, held on by that little bitty place right there. Now that thing, see the rock on top? That's how big the Guillotine rock is. Ha ha! Oh boy. And do people hike under that thing? The AT suggests no. They suggest go around this sucker. Good advice. Here's another view of it. Actually, I was just messing with you before, because if you did walk underneath it, you wouldn't get anywhere. The trail does come up here, and it's not on the other side of that opening, so I know. So yeah, I know, I'm a smart aleck. Can't help it. This is the first fire I have ever built on the AT. Got some company here at the campground, so figure let's be sociable and torch one up. Here's a fun part of the trip. It's raining all day. I got 10 miles to go. And I got up in the dark to beat the rain, just barely did. I got my Frog Togs jacket on. But what else you gonna do? Where would you rather be? Where would I rather be? For today, this is just for today, this is just fine. Yeah. Here's an uphill section in the fog. It rained pretty good for about 90 minutes. And then it quit. Now it's just foggy. And that's cool. We'll take that, right? Gotta put a crimp on the views, such as they might be, though. Here's a little tidbit. The trail comes down this rock here, and we see that in places there is moss or lichen type stuff growing. And in other places we see the gray, bare rock. In rain like this, you can slip on that mossy lichen type stuff. It's slippery because I just slipped on it. The bare rock, however, you got much better traction on the bare rock. Maybe other rocks will be slippery, but this one's not. Well, it rained pretty good for an hour after that lull. Now we have another lull. I don't know what the temperature is. I'll bet it's 40. But as long as you keep moving, you feel pretty toasty. I did bring a pair of sort of synthetic mitten things. And I've been wearing those, and they help. I think, if I haven't mentioned it lately, I have seen so far on this hike 4 through hikers and about 25 section hikers. They're just all over the place. Very popular area. I haven't seen anybody today. However, 2 of the guys I camped with last night, they packed up early and headed off in the opposite direction as me, and a 3rd guy elected to stay there for the day, I believe. So that's where we're at. It's not the same as hiking in the summer. In the summer you sweat like crazy. I haven't sweat like crazy, except for once when I fell down in some leaves. Wet leaves. I have been mostly pretty darn clean. So there's that. And the weather, the locals, they may be staying home in the rain, but otherwise, this time of year, they're just crawling all over this place. It's like I said before, the number of section hikers and day hikers that use the AT, who knows how many it is. I think the ATC said 2 or 3 million. No way to know, but there are a lot. This is where the car is, so now I'm done. I'll finish this thing up probably with something from the studio.
You'll recall I earlier mentioned another section hiker who apparently spent the day of bad rain in his tent. We all knew the rain was coming that day, 100% chance, and during my final 10 miles, it rained for 4 hours. Rain also is forecast for each of the next 2 days. I shot this in my car on the ride home the day after the first rain. The section hiker, a through hiker, and I had conversations about whether we should hike in that rain or wait it out. I was going to add a section about that to the end of this video, but this is so long, I'll save it for another video later. Another detail is I decided to put off that 14-mile section until I could return in summer and know I'd have plenty of daylight to get it done in a day. The northbound blazes were newer, brighter, and more numerous than southbound in that area. Even in daylight, I had to frequently look around and behind me to make sure I was on the trail. I didn't feel like dealing with that after dark. Hope you liked this one, and thanks a million for watching.